Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name's Bertram. I'm the Regional General Manager for Uber in UK, Ireland, and Nordics. Really excited to be here again at Slush. I was here, I think, on this stage or one of the others a year ago when we were announcing our launch of Helsinki and also Copenhagen and Oslo. So great to come back a year after and see how everything's going. I think you'll probably all know what Uber is at this stage, but just wanted to recap a little bit on what our mission is. Essentially, we want to bring you a ride at the touch of a button. Travis talks about transportation as reliable as running water, anytime you want it, anywhere. The way it works is pretty simple. You've hopefully all used it. You download the app. When you open it up, you can see where the nearest cars are. At the tap of one button, you can request. You watch the car drive up in the app. You get the driver's photo, name, and registration, so you know you're getting in the right car. And then you just get in and drive to your destination. At the end, we have your credit details on file, so you just get out. We send you a receipt with the details of the journey, and you can get out. Uber started 5 years ago in San Francisco, and we've seen huge growth since then. Back in 2010, you'll see the one dot. It's not super clear on here, but in San Francisco. Now, 5 years later, we're all over the world. Not just in developed countries like the US, like Europe. We're also in Bogota, in Riyadh, where we're doing really great things, enabling women to move around more freely, because otherwise they weren't able to. If you go to India or China, you can open up the same Uber app and get a ride at the touch of a button, and a ride that's safe, that you can trust. So we're now in 351 cities, in 64 countries, in 6 continents. Even those numbers are probably out of date, as we're usually launching a city every week. And now here in Finland. We've been here 1 year, as I mentioned. We obviously started small when we launched. What this map shows is the GPS trails of all of the Uber trips that were taking place in January last year, so a month after we'd launched. And you can see it's fairly concentrated in downtown Helsinki. This is the same map now from October, so over those 30-day period. And you can see that we're extending far further into the outskirts of Helsinki. And as we grow in those cities, we're able to help people reach more underserved areas where public transport can be more difficult to get to. We've also seen huge demand in Helsinki. This is a map of all of the users who've opened the app in Helsinki over the last 30 days. And that's over 13,000 different users. In fact, this is one of the ways in which we use data to think about where we're going to launch next. So we can look at cities and see where there's a huge number of users just waiting to get an Uber. But I didn't want to just talk about Uber here today. One of the things we've been talking about, and very much in line with the topic of this track, is smart cities of the future. And that's particularly relevant here in Finland. The city of Helsinki has an aspirational target of reducing the need for private car ownership by 2025. That doesn't mean you can't own a private car if you want to, but it means you don't have to, because there's a range of other options to get around. It's something we've obviously been thinking about a lot at Uber, like how do you make that vision happen? And there's 3 elements of that I wanted to talk about today. One part of it is you obviously need a big ecosystem of transportation options to get around. It's not just about Uber. It's not just about public transport. You wouldn't give up your car if you could only rely on the tram. Instead, you need to have a suite of different transportation options at your fingertips, from a shared bike to an Uber to walking to taking the bus or the tram. Secondly, those options need to be integrated. Sampo referred to that in his introduction, but you need to be able to access them easily and combine them in a way that makes sense for you. Obviously, the private car is available whenever you need it, and we need to make transportation as reliable and easy as that. And then finally, data-driven. A lot of companies are producing a lot of data nowadays. We've seen from two of the companies the data that they're generating. And we need to figure out how to use that to develop the smart cities of the future. Starting on the multimodal point. Uber's part of the ecosystem of transportation. Here's that same map that I showed you earlier of the GPS trails of trips in Helsinki. And on top of that, we've overlaid the bus and the tram and metro routes here in Helsinki. And you can see that the reach of Uber then extends far beyond that network. That means that we're helping to reach people in areas that were otherwise underserved by public transport. That can also help small businesses who are often located in the less expensive parts of town and now can get customers to and from them more easily. Giving another example, in London, 30% of our trips actually start or end outside zones 1 and 2. So that's all the area of outer London which isn't quite as well served by the tube and the buses. We also find that Uber's providing a last-mile solution, helping to integrate with other options. This is showing all the trips that came from different parts of Helsinki going to or from Leppävaara station. So people are combining their train travel with an Uber at either side. Maybe on the way out they take an Uber, maybe on the way back they take the metro or they take a bike, but they have those options. Again, in London, we find that 30% of our trips start or end within 200 meters of one of the tube stops, showing that people really are using Uber for their last-mile solution. Then, secondly, for you to be able to give up your private car, you need to be able to have all of the information at your fingertips about how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, when the next bus or Uber is available. And it needs to be super simple and easy for the user. Here at Uber, we've opened up our API, so developers can build on that and develop innovative functions that use the Uber app. We actually held a hackathon over the weekend at Junction Hacks, and we had over 150 developers register, and were amazed by the creativity that the guys showed and some of the apps that they were able to build on our API. I just wanted to give a couple of examples today of ways that we can partner with other companies, such as the ones we've heard talk today, to provide that integrated solution. The first one's Google Maps. You're probably all very familiar with this. But when you look at the public transportation options or the options to walk, in many cities you can now see the nearest Uber as well. So when you're considering taking the bus or train, you can see that there's an Uber nearby and how long that will take. Another example from London is Citymapper. This is just one of many apps. There's also companies like Move It that we've heard speak, but that bring together all of this information so that it's at the user's fingertips. I, for one, use this almost every day, so I can open it up. I can say where I'm going to go. I think this was my trip to work. And I can look at all the different options, whether it's walking, whether it's taking a bike, whether it's taking a taxi of some sort, or all the different public transport options. I can even see if there's a rain-safe route, if it's raining, as it often is. And we've linked with that. So when you click into the car option, you see the availability of all the different types of Ubers and how much that's going to cost you. There's an enormous amount of innovation in this space, as we've heard today. And as these companies carrying on developing, we'll probably see even more on this. Here's one last example. This is the Dallas public transit service. And we've partnered with them, again, to make sure that users have an opportunity to get that last mile home. And then finally, data. This is a topic that obviously comes up a lot. Cities more and more are getting interested in the data that technology companies have available. I won't try and get into how transport planning happens. It's an enormously complex process requiring a lot of models and a lot of data and a lot of analysis. But this is where companies like Uber and like the others you've heard from today can really help. One of the challenges, actually, is that there's a huge amount of data available out there. but not that many people actually have the skills and abilities to be able to use it and get the insights out that we need. There was a McKinsey Global Institute study that estimated that by 2018 in the United States, there'll be 50 to 60% more demand for the people who have the skills to do big data and analytics than there is supply to actually fulfill it. It's a skill set massively in demand. And that's where we think we at Uber can actually help. We're committed to working with all of the stakeholders and the other players in the cities in which we operate, like here in Helsinki, to try and bring some of those insights. Our data, you've seen some of it today, can show where the most congested areas are, where people are trying to get to, where there might be gaps in other forms of public transport. So that's just a little bit about what we see as being necessary for smart cities of the future. We're absolutely committed to working with everyone in all these cities, and it's important to note that Uber's just one part of a bigger picture. There's some really exciting stuff happening in this space, as we've heard today, and we look forward to continuing the journey with you all. Thank you.
So we've heard the two previous examples that actually give information about transport. You actually provide transportation. Have you seen any evidence already in some of the cities you've been for a longer time that people are no longer buying cars? And do you believe that Uber alone is enough to do that?
We've definitely seen some data, early data in the United States, where we've been for several years now, that people are definitely no longer having a second car because they can use Uber, but also that some of them are giving up their first car. But as I mentioned, it's not only Uber that can provide that. You need to have that suite of options. So it's important to remember we're just one part of the transportation ecosystem. But when you have that together with good public transport, with good car sharing schemes, good bike sharing schemes, then yes, we're seeing people giving up their private cars.
All right. Thank you.